All right, everybody. I hope you guys are doing really, really well. I think it's Friday night. Am I right? Did I make it to Friday? Okay, so let's see where I'm at. I want to take this off. There we go. All right, I hope everybody is doing well. This is Friday, August 4th. Can you hear me now? If you can, please put a 1. My apologies. Not working? You can hear me. Oh, thank goodness. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, we had a little bit of a rough and rocky start, didn't we? My apologies. Okay, so this My True Crime channel. I'm Jules Thought, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Kohberger. This is the wonkiest case. Now, listen. Hey, Calming the Chaos. Welcome. Look. I am not an attorney. Okay. I'm not an attorney. I don't understand these things. This is not my training. But when I go over and I listen to these people that are professional attorneys, and this is in fact what they do for a living, and even they themselves are saying, this is the craziest case I've ever seen. I have to agree that it makes me feel better to hear Peter Traga say, wow, this is just, I mean, it's interesting because it is so, I guess, unconventional, right? It's just really, really nuts. So I've been trying to make a little bit of sense of it according to my world and my training and the little bit I've learned about the whole, legal process just from listening to YouTube attorneys and reading and things like that. And so I think, trying to get into the mind of Ann Taylor, because that's what we're really dealing with. We're really kind of dealing with another person who is very similar, I guess, to Iris Eaton. Okay. They have the same kind of job. And I think it requires a certain mentality. Like I think their problem approach is similar, right? So you and I, just as consumers of the genre, we look at these problems, things related to charging documents, trial, evidence, defense, prosecution. We look at it from a practical, rational point of view of, well, if he's guilty, there will be evidence that will prove he is guilty. And if he is not guilty, there will be no evidence that would prove that he is guilty. Correct? I mean, that's pretty much how we look at this thing. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why this case with Kohberger and the murders of these 4 young people, we went from a position, I believe, where the majority of us following this case really felt good about the arrest of Bryan Kohberger. You find out that he's up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. He's separating his daily trash into different plastic bags and then running out and placing it in the neighbors' trash cans rather than putting, just throwing in their usable consumables, just throwing them out like everybody else does. So when you hear that, you go, okay, that's shady. You find out, his sister says, yes, ever since he got here, he's been wearing gloves. He's worn gloves on his hands. Okay, shady again, not wanting to leave fingerprints, not wanting to leave DNA, I suppose. And so that's shady. The multiple cleanings of his car in the middle of the night, very shady, very unusual. So when we all heard this with the arrest, we all felt like, yeah, this is it. That they got their guy, correct? So we've been following this case and all the ins and outs and how rapidly it changes and the it's not just Ann Taylor doing her job as a defense. I think the prosecution has been quite strategic. Another way of saying that might be sneaky. But it paid off for the prosecution, of course. And so now people that are really following closely and they're asking these questions. What is this evidence? How did you even get this guy's name? How did he come on the picture on the stage? If he had 0 connections to the 4 young people, then how did the cops even get on his trail? Like, what was there an eyewitness? Did someone come forward and say, you better look at Kohberger? Like, what in the world? How did this unfold? So it's been a roller coaster, literally, of a true crime investigation. And all we can do is to sit back and watch the case unfold. Generally, that's enough. Generally, sitting back and watching a case unfold, in the news and whatnot, that is sufficient for having, some interesting conversations about whatever crime it is. But even that has failed us in this particular case because there has been a gag order put in place that it basically has no leaks. So Judge has done a really good job of shutting down any form of communication. I think it has worked against the successful prosecution of Bryan Kohberger. I think it has hurt the prosecution to have this gag order in place because it has allowed sort of a Wild West mentality for some more unscrupulous creators to really go crazy with wild speculation Friday of their own flavor and kind of get us off into some really strange bushes. For example, we got a naked man running around the house on the 13th, the night of the murders, or the early morning hours of the murders. We got a naked guy. And we also have a guy with bushy eyebrows dressed all in black, wearing a black mask covering his chin and mouth or nose. Okay, that's wonky. It's a weird thing. It's a strange story. And if Judge won't allow the prosecution to have a spokesman to come out and say, we have absolutely no reason to believe that anyone was running around naked in the early morning hours of the 13th at this particular address, then we're left with this hanging in the air. This person, Kim, WSU Kim, she has blown this case out of the water I don't think in a responsible, respectful manner. I think in a very self-serving, possibly, attention seeking manner. Um, and no, there is no official court appointed representative to come out and say, we have no reason to believe that any of the sororities or fraternities were alerted to these murders 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours before the cops arrived. We don't know what is real in this case, and there is, because of the ruling of Judge, there's no one to correct any of this, and it's just gotten really crazy and wonky. So now we started out, we've been waiting on this whole alibi thing, right? There was a hint, there was a discussion back in, I believe, May and June, that he has an alibi. The man has an alibi, right? We got this kind of really firm, yes, he has an alibi, but we're not ready to tell you just yet. Then it went to, okay, well, wait a minute. First of all, we need to see everything you have. We want to see any kind of body cam, any kind of recordings you guys have. We need to see anything and everything. And so the prosecution has sort of played along. The judges sort of played along. They, in fact, did miss their deadline for turning over an official alibi. And there is reason in Idaho. There is, in fact, reason for there to be a declared alibi with sufficient time for the prosecution to respond. In particular, because it's a death penalty case. So I believe June 24th or June the 25th, I think. Kitty dog, quit barking. June 24th or June the 25th was the original. We are supposed to have July the 25th. We're supposed to have a alibi. And so Ann Taylor, Kohberger's defense attorney, said that they have evidence that will show that the 28-year-old Bryan was actually somewhere else during the time of the murders. Right? She says, and this is a quote, evidence corroborating Mr. Kohberger being at a location other than the King Road address will be disclosed pursuant to discovery and evidentiary rules. And this was, this was a formal response. So this was July the 25th. And so everybody was like, well, where is it? You haven't told us just yet. And then finally, yesterday, Anne releases, I guess you could say she released an official alibi, but it in fact is not an alibi. She said that there is a court filing, an official court document, and let me pull it up here so I get my words right. It is for case CR 2922-2805, objection to the state's motion to compel motive of a defense of alibi or alternatively to bar certain evidence. So the prosecution back July the 25th, when she came out and said, no, we're going to give you evidence that shows that he was somewhere else, and therefore, because he's somewhere else, he couldn't possibly have been involved in these murders at 1122 King Road. And so the prosecution said, okay, well, if you want to play this game, let's play. And so they then tried to force her to name the alibi. And so that is now where yesterday, we got the motion to the Ann Taylor, public defender, objects to the state's motion to compel motive of defense of alibi. And so then This is the quote. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I know you guys have been going to the legal channels. Y'all have heard the whole thing. You've heard the whole legal argument. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about Ann Taylor's state of mind as she goes through these machinations, trying to lodge and level some measure of defense for Bryan Kohberger. And I quote, when determining whether to exclude evidence due to late disclosure or non-disclosure, the trial court must weigh the prejudice to the state against the defendant's right to fair trial. And this is because she was late with this statement of alibi. It is error for a trial court to exclude a witness based solely on late disclosure without analyzing whether the state would suffer prejudice from the late disclosure. And then they add some citations from precedent. In addition to weighing the competing interests at stake, the trial court should consider whether less severe remedies would be sufficient for the untimely disclosure or non-disclosure, such as a short continuance, mistrial, or sanctions against defense counsel before excluding a defense witness. So she gives all this saying, yeah, we were late. I know we were late. Just don't pay attention to that, Judge. Don't worry about the fact that we were late. It's okay. But now that I've gotten you calmed down and relaxed, Judge, let me tell you why I'm really here. Mr. Kohberger has had a very long-standing habit of going for nightly drives all alone. It's his zen. It's how Mr. Kohberger gets his groove back. Often, Mr. Kohberger would go for his drives at night. He did so late on November the 12th and into the early morning hours of November the 13th, 2022. And oh yeah, Anne, how about the mid-morning drive at around 9:30, where he just happened to make his way back yet again into the 1122 King Road sort of circular drive or cul-de-sac or little enclave of college life. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to have been at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late night, November 12th, 2022, and early morning, November 13th. Oh yeah, and don't forget about 9:30 a.m. on November 13th. Please include that in your alibi. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November the 12th and 13th and at 9:30 on the 13th. Counsel to Mr. Kohberger is aware that case law broadens the definition of alibi with the statutory requirement of a specific location to more broadly include disclosure of information that tends to state the person claiming alibi was at a place other than the location of an offense. Mr. Kohberger has now complied to the extent possible at this time. Oh my goodness. Anne, come on, Anne. Fess up. Tell the truth. Are you friends with Iris Eaton? I think you might be. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger's not being at 1122 King Road may be brought out through cross-examination of the state witnesses. Now, one little word can change the whole kit and caboodle, right? Let me read this again. One word is all it takes. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King Road may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. So even at this point in time, as Ann Taylor, in her Iris Eaton-esque manner, is now spinning a tale of fiction and filing it with an official court document. That she is just certain that Bryan Kohberger was anywhere other than 1122 King Road. Like he was anywhere other than there. Now, she doesn't know where, and she doesn't know if there's any evidence. She has no idea if his car was caught on camera, if some soul working the graveyard shift saw him. She has no idea. What she's hoping for is that one of the witnesses will accidentally say, oh yeah, like I think I saw that white car and it looked like Bryan driving it, and it was in Timbuktu at, I don't know, 2:57 a.m. Right? It's just a fantastical tale. And she's telling you right here in this one sentence, she is praying that one of the prosecution's witnesses will inadvertently make a mistake and say, I saw that car here, there, or some other where. Or perhaps there was, in fact, a 2013 Hyundai Elantra that was caught on camera in Boise at 4 a.m. with literally no way at all to see the license plate. And so now it's a leap of faith. Now you have to say, okay, well, we see the white Elantra there at King Road with its 3-point turn and other auto ballerina moves. But we also now see a photograph of a car exactly looking like it, exactly in Boise, Idaho at 4 a.m. So it's absolutely impossible that Bryan Kohberger could be in Boise and Moscow all at the same time. This is a fantasy. This is Disney-esque. This is a tale she's telling. She's weaving for you a grand mystery, something that Hollywood could, commit to film. And then she's going to hope that there's going to be one person on the jury who's going to go, yeah, it totally could be him in Boise for sure. Okay. This is so frustrating. But this is, in fact, what the alibi is, or the not alibi. I think the name of this video is The Alibi That Never Was. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. She doesn't even know if it's going to be brought out. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. The defense has been hampered. Maybe, Anne, you should have used the word hobbled. The defense has been hobbled by the state's own choices. What do you think that's referring to? Are we talking about Bethany Funk? I kind of think so. I think we're back to the naked man. Yeah? That supposedly Bethany said, I saw a person who was not the person that Dylan Mortensen claimed that she saw. This is a different person. And that she saw him run out of the sliding glass doors on the second floor. And incidentally, Dylan Mortensen also saw a guy leave through the sliding glass doors. So now they put two guys in the house. And we do know that Bryan Kohberger said, has anyone else been arrested? So the idea that there were two men there is not really implausible for this case and the bizarre nature that it's taken. So she asked to talk with Bethany. Ann Taylor thought this was going to go, that there would be a preliminary hearing and that Bethany would be able to be called to be cross-examined on her statement. And there's something that Ann is interested in regarding Bethany's statement. And no one knows what that is, I don't think. I've listened to, I think, all of the channels that are covering this case. I don't think anybody knows what they believe about Bethany's statement, why Ann is so interested in Bethany's statement. However, the prosecution's response to Ann being so excited to talk with Bethany actually, I believe, caused the prosecution to strategically impanel a grand jury and get an indictment in that way, thereby making any kind of need for a preliminary hearing, null and void. And so I think that is what she is talking about in her filing when she says the defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than the planned preliminary hearing. All grand juries are secret, but you know that. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. And most specifically, I believe, and I think the other creators and subscribers that have really gotten into this case, we all believe this is about Bethany Funk, not Dylan Mortensen. The defense has only received, as of July 27th, 2023, a copy of the testimony the state chose to elicit. Review of such is underway. The defense had to obtain investigative materials from the state's investigators, the FBI, through an order compelling the state to provide the materials. The state made draft disclosures just 2 weeks ago. The sufficiency of these disclosures is currently being analyzed. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at the King Road house may be brought out through expert witness. That analysis is underway. So again, she's absolutely saying, okay, guys, we have our alibi. This is our official alibi. Yeah, yes, Martin. Iris Etanesque. Yeah, Ann Taylor has certainly studied under our little flower. So she says, I'm late. First of all, she says, Judge, I'm late with my official alibi. I apologize. I don't know why I'm so forgetful and absent-minded, but since this is a death penalty case and Bryan Kohberger's life is really, really important, let's just overlook my lateness, Judge. It's just a little bit of ADHD. It'll be fine. Then she goes into, okay, Judge, here's our official alibi. He wasn't there. That's it. He wasn't there. That's the alibi that never was. He wasn't there. And then the next stage is he wasn't there. And when we cross-examine the prosecution's or the state's witnesses, whether expert or not, when we cross-examine them, then maybe we'll find out where he was. I'm going to ask you guys this. Does this sound like an alibi to you? If you think this sounds like a perfectly acceptable alibi, especially in a death penalty case, could you put a 1, please? If you think that this sounds like poppycock, put a 2. He may not have been there, though, but if he is guilty, I hope he is found guilty. True, Yona. Absolutely true. Cinnamon says it is poppycock. Hilariette says poppycock. Callie says poppycock. All right. Crime sleuthing, of course, is going to argue. Okay. But she is the one who makes the conversation interesting. So crime sleuthing thinks this sounds like a just remarkable alibi. So does Susie. Thank you, Susie. It's a backhanded alibi. Oh my God. Oh my God, crime sleuthing. Don't do this. It's Friday, crime sleuthing. I love Fridays. And you and Susie Storm are messing my Friday up. No, I'm kidding. I'm playing with you. Okay, so hold on just a second. So the purpose of an alibi, this is evidence, or your evidence for your alibi is to create a reasonable doubt as to whether or not the defendant could have committed the crime as it's charged. But you got to have evidence, people. I could say, look, okay, I could say, Judge, I did not do this. I did not do this. I was at the Eiffel Tower with Scott Peterson when Lacey died, which was also the same time when the Idaho 4 were murdered. So I couldn't possibly have done it, Judge. Do you see? You could say anything. You could say, Judge, I didn't do it. I could not possibly have done it because I had eaten a pound of peanut butter and I was sufficiently ill. I didn't do it. I wish Jules would show the thumbnail of the reaction video I made. It's almost the same as what she's saying, and the thumbnail is perfect. I don't know that I've seen it. Did he take a polygraph test? I have zero idea, me, myself, and I. I would be willing to bet that Ann Taylor would not have allowed him to take a polygraph test. What say you, Martin Smallwood? Do you think that the defense attorney would let you take a polygraph in a death penalty case? I saw it as it not locking them into anything. So anything the state shows, they can be like, yeah, well, we said he was like just driving around, you know? That's right, May. It's going to be quite opportunistic, I believe. This will be Ann Taylor. Look, I'm going to say this. Very thick one. I think that Ann Taylor's hands are tied. I think she has nothing. Ann Taylor has got nothing. This to me, this filing that came down yesterday, to me, thinking about her frame of mind, the way she's conceptualized this problem, the steps that she's taken, she's got nothing. She has nothing. She is still hoping for, a little sprinkle of fairy dust from you know who. Right? We just need a little sprinkle, Tinker. Come on, Tinkerbell. Just a little sprinkle right over Bryan Kohberger's head. We need some help because me and Taylor, I got nothing. And of course, Tinkerbell is indignant because she would never get anything involved with anything as sleazy as this. All right, go back to sleep, Tinkerbell. All right. So you get my point, right? She doesn't have anything. She's still searching for something. Well, I'm not sure which GPS that's going to be, Yona. And the reason that I say that is because he turned off his phone. He learned that from Barry Morphew. Barry Morphew just randomly turns his cell phone on and off. It's a thing. I don't know why. Maybe all the best people do. Perhaps you and I will have to try that. But Bryan Kohberger and Barry Morphew both turn their cell phones off at random times. So it's very interesting. What's different between Barry Morphew and Bryan Kohberger, though, is that Kohberger's car does not or did not have the telematics that old Bear had. You see, Barry's truck had the best top of the line telematics available. In fact, he was paying like a subscription for the best telematics because he's an important business guy and all that, right? I mean, you know, when you're importing, you got to do that. So it was a curious thing because not only did Barry's cell phone just turn off magically, so did his truck telematics. Isn't that queer? All right. So Yona, I think this is the problem with Bryan Kohberger. He turned his phone off, or it went dead. I'm willing to play the part. Or it simply went dead, and then magically it came back awake after the murders were all finished. So I don't know how they do the GPS. The Hyundai Elantra did not have the telematics, and then his phone was turned off. So where are they going to get the GPS from? Right? He would have been better off just leaving the phone at home. Right? I don't know, Blonde. I don't know. I'm not a killer, so I don't know what goes through their minds. It's such a coincidence, Callie. It's just magical. Tinkerbell, right? It's some of Tinkerbell's little antics. All right. Yes, justice for Suzanne Morphew. Yeah, we will never. Mark my words, Iris. We will never stop talking about Suzanne Morphew and her disappearance. Never. Okay. So now I'm going to put a link. Crime sleuthing. Copy. Crime sleuthing. If you want to come up and show your thumbnail. Let's see if we can do this. I'm willing to bet that law enforcement has telematics and phone data. People do crazy stuff, you know. We can never know what goes on in the minds of killers. No, we can't. Sometimes those crazy killers are just looking for some steak with some peanut butter on it. You know, that's just how they roll. Okay. All right. Crime sleuthing, how you doing?
I am good, Jules. How are you?
Doing wonderful. It's so great to hear your voice.
You too. You too. I lost my voice last night, but it's back today.
What were you having a terrific argument?
Oh, girl, I have been talking about those alibis with somebody, since it came out. It's been crazy.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
It's amazing. So tell us about your let me try to get this down so I can put your thumbnail up you were talking about. Do you have your thumbnail, or is it on your channel, or where is it?
Yeah, I'm getting it right here. Hang on. You know how these ads pop up. Hang on.
I know. I don't know why this is not coming down.
Okay. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so I think did you put it? No, you did. Can you if you present it, then I can add it.
All right.
And I may have to leave to make it show. We'll see.
All right, it's shared.
Add to the stream. Okay, does it have sound?
Yes. I'll play just the very beginning of it, and you tell me if you recognize the song as well. And then it'll show the thumbnail right here at this part. And then I'll
side chat. If y'all can hear, can you put a 1?
Let me hit play.
Make sure that yeah. I can hear it. Oh my gosh. It was all just a bad dream.
You recognize the song?
I can't hear it. That is crazy that we both had the alibi that never wasn't, or a variation of that. That's crazy. We both had that same thought.
No, girl. I saw your title and I was like, ooh, I gotta be here for this. Okay.
Yeah. I can't place it. I can hear it. Da 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 da. Is that it?
Come on, chat. You know what this song is.
What's the song, y'all? Y'all help me.
In Cars. Remember that one?
Yes. Yeah, I could hear the like basic sound. That's awesome. Wonderful, wonderful.
I just did like you did. I just read some of it and I put some reactions and other pictures and stuff throughout it. It's 6 minutes. So, but I
love the crazy eyes.
Yes, that's Jake Gyllenhaal, y'all, and he better play Brian when they make the movie.
He's got to do it. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it was a little bit. I was having a hard time hearing it, Justice Jane. But listen, so this is Crime Sleuthin. Can we put up her link? And then she did a video addressing this alibi as well, apparently. But I think that's hilarious that we both were like, wait, this is the alibi that never was. So that's funny.
You were even saying things. I was sitting here listening to you to hear your reaction. You were saying just a few of the same things that I said. And I'm like, great minds think alike. I love her.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you know what's so interesting when you read through these legal documents that, there's so much information, right? There's so many words and everything. But the reality is, with Ann Taylor, and I think it's because she just really doesn't have anything to work with. As you read through them, you can pull out like 2 or 3 sentences, and that's the whole point of the filing. Everything else is just blah blah, right?
Yeah, so this was crazy.
She just has nothing. What do you think?
Unless they have some super duper secret witness, or they know something that the state really, really, truly doesn't know, I think they got nothing.
And
I can't imagine anything else. I mean, he would have the worst luck on the planet if he's innocent. He happens to be driving around that very night with his phone off during the correct times, seen in the vicinity. And
he'd been there 12 times before in 3 months.
12 times before. Yeah. Phone off, airplane mode, whatever.
Yes.
People get stuck on that. Why?
Just very bad luck.
Well, we do know that the phone was not connecting to anything between the hours of 2:48 and 4:48. Exactly that time frame.
Exactly.
Dude, you got some really bad luck if that happens to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, so after going through this and reading, I was like, what is this? How is she even going to use this as a so-called alibi? She's admitting that she not only has no evidence that what she's saying is true, but she's just flying on a wing and a prayer that she's going to be able to cross-examine somebody, which I think she's thinking is Bethany Funk. That she's going to be able to take an eyewitness or an expert witness, cross-examine them, and then elicit something that's going to prove that he was somewhere else. How is that possible, Ann? You are the very one that said that there was absolutely zero connection between your client and those kids living at 1122 King Road. You said it. So how is any of the witnesses going to be able to say, oh, I saw Bryan? They don't know Bryan, according to you. So how do they know they saw him? So I did look up like what evidence would be needed for an alibi defense. Like if she was going to try to offer up some evidence, like what would it actually be like? And so here were some of the direction that was provided. Eyewitnesses, people who can attest under oath that they saw you somewhere else when the crime occurred. Well, she's saying right there that she's saying he wasn't there, but she doesn't know where he was. Like she can't tell you where he was. She just knows he wasn't there. How do you know that? You can use time-stamped pictures. You can use video footage with markings like date or time. And she doesn't have any of that. So I'm pretty blown away by this. I don't know if it's sloppy or if he's just so unlucky and screwed that there's nothing for her to work with.
Yeah. See where I highlighted maybe? I was so glad that you also emphasized that because people are completely skipping over that word.
But like that one word means everything, doesn't it?
It does. It really, really does.
Yeah.
It means it may not. May not.
I mean, when I say
maybe, it means no.
Yeah. Well, you know, when she, in an official court filing, she uses the term may be blah, blah, blah. She is literally saying, Judge, we ain't got nothing. We are on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah, they're just hoping it's just going to be a battle of the experts, and Anne is going to viciously attack every witness that the state puts up there, and that's I don't like the sound of that at all. And I.
So it is true that as I was reading through some of this, law 101. That the alibi defense, you do not have to prove your alibi conclusively, but you do have to present enough evidence to establish reasonable doubt. So I'm going to ask you this. After what we saw in the charging documents in terms of what the prosecution, the state has against Bryan, is that going to be enough when Ann Taylor stands up and says, listen, guys, he just wasn't there. I'm sorry, but he wasn't. Case closed. Are you going to go back in the jury deliberation room then and go, okay, well, we got all of this from the state. And then we have Ann saying, my client was not there. You're just going to have to trust me on that. And then let that be your doubt? I don't think so.
Yeah, that would be reasonable doubt. That's why the defense doesn't really have to say or do anything at all.
That's right.
Whatsoever. Don't have to do anything. Right. The burden is fully on the state, and the state will need to prove that he was there and did it. They're going to have to do that. And I guarantee you, I would bet you guys $100. I will cash up you $100 if the state can't prove that, because you can tell by what she just filed. She already knows they have so much. She knows that they have proof of his car being there. They've got everything. They probably have his DNA in that house other than the sheath.
So they said in terms of evidence that would support an alibi defense, like I said, eyewitnesses, timestamp pictures or video, and then the documentation where you would need something like credit card receipts, time cards, a plane ticket, something that would show that you were transacting business somewhere else at that time, correct?
Right.
So wouldn't she know if they had that? Wouldn't Bryan say, oh, well, I couldn't have done it because at 4 a.m. I was in Boise filling my gas tank up with gas.
Right. If he had it, it would be in this document.
There you go. It's very, very, I think this is going to be another trial like the Lori Vallow thing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very much a mix between the O.J. Simpson trial and the Alec Murdaugh trial, where they're going to depend a lot on the Burrell report from the vehicle and all of the downloads from the devices.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as the Murdaugh trial and the O.J. trial, the defense is going to be doing the "if it doesn't fit, you must acquit" thing the whole time.
Well, there's a big
interesting.
difference. There's a big difference though between OJ and Bryan Kohberger. OJ's most famous athlete in the history of the world, right? So
Right.
it's very difficult for people. You really needed to bring some solid evidence, and there was solid evidence that Glove just done them in. That was the biggest mistake.
Yeah, the planting of the evidence, and they're alluding to that already in some of these motions, that they're going to be bringing that up in trial.
So they're going to try to suggest that the knife sheath was planted.
Yes, not necessarily by police. I don't believe that's where it's going, but she has made statements and innuendos in some of these motions about other college students being in the house before police got there. One of them could have done it. Which fuels all the YouTube theories about their friends and all these other names that I won't mention. That's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and you can blame one person for this whole thing. And the really disturbing thing is that one person also did exactly the same thing in the Kylie Rodney case.
Yes, ma'am.
She also was involved with the wrecked Hyundai Elantra in Eugene, Oregon.
Yep.
So,
and ever since I had this on my video last night, I have been majorly harassed.
Really? What are they saying to you?
Oh, I've got all of her trolls over in my channel making rude comments. I just delete them. But and then I'm going to send you an email of something else I don't want to bring up here, but you'll be like, whoa. Yeah, she's crazy. Yeah, that's what happens when you call them out.
Yeah, but you got to call it out. You've got to call it out. This has been one of my biggest complaints with the gag order. I mean, I absolutely think there's got to be a mechanism to control opportunists that are just trying to come up with something sensational, get some extra clicks and views, whatnot. And I don't think the gag order is the right. I don't think it's working. I think it's making it harder.
It totally made it worse. Yeah.
So she's running with it. She's been on the number of channels that have had her on it. I'm just like, are y'all listening to her? Because she has taken her persona and built it around a famous football player, a famous linebacker, and his family. She has presented herself as Kimberly Pellier, and she even used the same names of the kids, Jordan and Peyton. Jordan was one of the best players that WSU had. But this all happened. Jordan, his last game was like 4 or 5 years ago. She and Scott, her husband, have been divorced, and Scott has since died of cancer. So I don't know if she thought that was just a good persona that she could say, well, check this and see if I'm legit. And Drunk Turkey, Daniel on Drunk Turkey said, well, yeah, I looked it up and her son does play football, blah, blah, blah. Look at the dates. It was 4 or 5 years ago. It's silly. She's not real. She used a real family,
correct.
But it's not her. It's not her.
Yep.
So
what was her name? They won't listen. They believe her. They believe this dot person. They believe.
Okay, so I don't know anything about this dot person. I don't know who that is. I heard somebody say it. I think Dago brought it up, but I couldn't make heads or tail of what it was about. I didn't know what it was.
It's just one of the. Okay, so you know how there's true crime over on TikTok as well?
Yes.
I don't use TikTok for anything like that. TikTok for me is funny videos and that's it. I don't go into true crime on TikTok. So I wasn't even aware
Of Dot.
I'd heard of a couple of people that, did stuff over there, but I don't really use it for that. That's my fun app. But anyway, so there's a group of TikTokers over there who have started to filter into YouTube with their ridiculous conspiracy theories. Dot came over a few days ago and told all kinds of crap. First story was that she was that she's one of the college kids that lives in the house behind 1122. That she went outside to smoke a cigarette, looked over and saw Xana with certain people who shouldn't be named. The E and the D girl and boyfriend and hoodie guy and somebody else, right? Standing outside in the backyard at 8:30 in the morning of the murders, smoking weed. Give me a freaking break.
Oh my God.
Then on the next panel she hopped up on, it changed to not only did she see all this because the first panel wasn't impressed, but she went over there and talked to them.
Oh my God.
And people believe her. She cried. She had a hissy fit. It was just, and I mean, I was there for both. I watched both lives. And I mean, I was on the second panel when she came up.
So did you just like get down off the panel? Did you talk to her? Like what happened?
I asked her a few questions. Yeah. I'm like, so you're telling me that you walked into what later was known to be a crime scene? And her story about you, because we're like, why didn't you go to law enforcement? Oh, I did go to law enforcement. And I specifically asked her, you tell me exactly what you wrote on that piece of paper. She said she wrote down everything that she saw and heard, blah, 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 and put her name, address, phone number on this piece of paper and slid it under the glass at the Moscow PD and never heard from anybody. And she's too scared to talk to anybody now.
That's
no.
just not true. No,
if she saw any such thing, she would be the defense's star witness. She said she actually talked to Ann Taylor, and Ann Taylor was, oh gosh, what did she say Ann Taylor said? Oh, asked her to go outside and reenact where she was standing and tell her exactly what she could see and blah, 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 blah. Yet she's on YouTube. She would have had her deposition within 24 hours and had her in protective custody. If any of that was true.
Wow.
Yeah. But yet there's still people believing it. There's a very large YouTuber right now that just put out a video yesterday stating that they believe her.
No.
Apparently they didn't see the first panel. There's nothing you can do to convince these people. Unless you're there, you can see the whole thing go down. You don't really see the lies unfold,
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Something happened. Only hers, she called into Cuomo the first time and they ended up hanging up on her because she sounded psycho. So then she started doing all the YouTube panels.
So I've seen
people believed her.
Well, I've seen some people like really go hard at Banfield or News Nation, I guess in general. But then they just are so easy to believe WSU, and I don't know anything about this Dot person. And I'm just it's confusing to me. It legitimately is confusing to me that why do you believe that these people have such intimate knowledge of one of the biggest crimes really of 2022? And you don't think both the prosecution and the defense would have locked these witnesses down?
Yeah. And I mean, they've done their best as far as locking things down. But like you said, the gag order went too far. I think I saw somebody in chat that said it was, how they put it, too broad, too wide a net.
Yeah, there's nothing coming out. like there is zero, nothing. Nobody can say anything. So they need, in my opinion, they need to have an official information officer. And when they gets, word of these stories, like what you're talking about with Dot and whatnot, that he should come out and say, we have not gathered any information that would reflect that this is true. They wouldn't have to say what they do have, but they could certainly come out and redirect some of the wilder, conspiracy theories.
They used to, right? They have the, rumors thing, their website was wonderful. I loved it. It was so organized. That updates
Yep.
page that they had, it was great.
Yep.
And then they got shut down.
So I don't know. Some strange, very, very crazy case. Just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And it's hard to kind of, figure out what happened, with what very, very little that we know. We can kind of glean from reading between the lines and stuff and these motions and assume and, but, and it's fun for lack of a better term. I don't want to sound insensitive, but it's fascinating to try to figure it out. And then later when the trial happens, see how close we are,
Yes. Yeah.
I think you and I are on the right track. I really do.
Well, there is some, there is some, I don't know if I want to call it proof. I can't call it proof. There is a reason to believe, not tarot cards or anything, or spirit box, nothing like that. There was a communication that was left, that was followed up by one of the police officers that placed, and this had to do with a neighbor of Bryan Kohberger who got invited to a swimming party. And he invited Bryan Kohberger to go to the swim party with them, with him and his, I don't know if it was his girlfriend or what. And Bryan did in fact go. And when, of course, you can't get it now, but Kaylee Gonsalves's social media, it showed that she was at a swim party on that same day. So it does look like maybe they were at the same swim party. So that may, come up as a potential for how they knew one another, or how he would have, I guess, how he would have noticed them or her. So I thought that was super interesting.
I've always wondered if there was some sort of prior connection or knowledge or something regarding Xana's sister, who did go to WSU at the time that Bryan was there.
Yeah, is that Sky?
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but yeah, she goes there.
I think there is someone that claims that I don't remember if it was the sister or if it was the mother, but some family member of Xana's was Facebook friends with Bryan Kohberger. But if you're like me, I've got so many different people I'm friends with on Facebook, but I don't talk to them. Like, I don't really know them.
Like that. I used to have like the max friends you could have many, many years ago. And then I got some weird messages regarding my daughter. And I was like, you know what? I'm locking this down. I kicked everybody out that I don't really know or gotten to know and know that they're not weird. I'm just way too paranoid with my private life because I've got lots of photos and everything up there. Yes. So I weeded it down from 5,000 to, I think I have 157 now. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
That's still a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine's kind of gone nuts. Yeah. And I don't even know a lot of those people. Like, I have some connection, like maybe through my college I went to or something like that.
Yeah, Jay, I think she was talking about, I believe, the summer party that I heard about. And I don't have any of that details or anything, but it was in the summer.
Yeah, it was like July or August. Yeah. This was the friend, I guess we should call him a neighbor. The neighbor that was interviewed, they were sitting in the kitchen. He had long, dark hair, handsome kid. He was the one that was saying that he had invited him to go with him to this swimming party. And then as Kaylee's Facebook and everything was still up, that at one point that, that they went to Bryan's Facebook. No, I got that backwards. That Kaylee's Facebook showed pictures of her at the swim party on that day, but it did not have like him in the background. They didn't even know if it was a swimming party at the same place. They just thought that it was interesting that Kaylee was at a swimming party, obviously, on the same day that this neighbor says that Bryan went with him to a swim party. So that was it. That was an interesting possibility. And certainly with the way that it was explained to me, would definitely be one the prosecution would have access to that information, right? And then the other thing that supposedly you would think prosecution would have access to would be that Xana's family member was a Facebook friend with Kohberger. Not Kohberger, Kopaka. I'm sorry, Kopaka. So those were two kind of obscure connections that really had a ring of truth, but no way to do anything with it now because we don't have access to those Facebooks and those, documents. But without a doubt, the prosecution would have access to those accounts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that may come up, that may be something we end up seeing. But I got really frustrated with that the kids, the girls, I guess, because Ethan didn't live at the house officially, but that the girls were drug dealers, right? That's kind of been a common narrative. And I'm not naive. Of course, a lot of people use drugs, not just college students, but a lot of people. The problem is this. I understand how drugs affect people in terms of their day-to-day life and their overall general health. And so I thought, well, okay, so it could be drugs like that. That's a real possibility in 2022. So what is the evidence? What are we seeing that would show us that drugs might be on the table here? And all of the markers that we know goes along with drug use, it's just not there. And so one of the things I looked at was like their GPA and their academic performance. Because if you're using drugs, the first thing it's going to, blow a hole through is your cognition. Memory falls to pieces. And Kaylee was very often on the dean's list and the president's list. Her grades were at the very top. She was knocking the top out of everything she was doing academically.
Sleuthy just said in chat, Sleuthy Goosey says, poll party was July 9th at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sleuthy Goosey. I appreciate that.
I knew it couldn't be November.
Yeah, no, that would be very cold in Idaho for pool party.
Although when I lived in Alaska, when the temperature reached 70 degrees outside, yes, that's summer for them.
Oh yeah, you got shorts and t-shirt on.
Swimming in that.
Yeah. So I think that the pool, the swimming pool connection, to me, see, that has a ring of, it has an element of, like, it seems truthful, right? You've got this guy that talks about it kind of relaxed off the top of his head.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not sensational and all about clicks and views. And I thought, this could really be something. And it's information that we know the prosecution would have access to. So it may show a connection. So we may, that may be it. But I'm weary with all of this. I want to be careful how I say it, but I do think that there are some people that are really loving the attention that they're getting because they have, their daughter's brother's husband's wife's child was Hunter's alibi. That's just silly. Stop. That's not true. What you're saying.
Some of it is laughable, and some of it I've had it up to here with some of these people. I mean, I have started calling them out, and I'm just tired of it. 4 people died. I mean, come on, people, stop.
Yeah.
You're spreading deliberate misinformation is wrong. Yep. Speculating based on facts of what we know, that's totally different. But completely pulling things out of your butt, putting them online, no. You need to log off the internet and go call a counselor.
Yeah, step away from the keyboard. You've gone too far.
Put the phone down and go touch some grass.
There you go. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Sleuthy Goosey. I appreciate that you had that date and everything. I'm a little ashamed that I didn't remember it off the top of my head. So thank you so much for that.
She has like a spreadsheet.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of been my
You
go-to,
have
has been
to.
her.
Yeah, I've got one too, but it's
Absolutely.
not like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. It's great. Okay. So I'm done. I appreciate so much you coming up. I think it's cool that we both had that same idea, the alibi that never was. And
Yeah.
and so what I'd really like to do is I'd really like if one of the mods could put up the link to Crime Sleuthin's channel. And also if you could put up Sleuthy Goosey's link, that would be really great too, because that was a big help. So I want to go over and watch your video about what your thoughts were on the should we call it the non-alibi, the counter alibi,
I'm
the
calling it
anti-alibi,
the backhanded alibi.
the backhanded alibi. I love it. That works for me for sure.
The alibi that
All right.
wasn't.
Yes, the
I
alibi
really
that
do hope
never
we're gonna
was.
I really hope that Jake Gyllenhaal gets to play this role because he's good. He's so good in everything that he's been in.
And he can
And
do the
he looks like
crazy eyes.
Yes, he's got those crazy eyes down.
Yeah,
all right, I'm going to go. You have a lovely evening. I really enjoyed hearing your perspective on everything. I always do. And love your
Thank you
channel.
so much. Yeah, thank you so much for coming up and showing your little video. The production, that was perfect. Perfect.
I was just proud of the thumbnail. I thought it was too funny.
Driving in cars. There you go.
Yes.
There you go. It was perfect.
And don't worry about copyrights, because that one passed the copyright because I was very careful where I cut it. So
okay.
You won't get any strikes.
All right, thank you. You know what? I'm a terrible YouTube creator. I really am. I just don't pay attention. Well, most of my videos never get monetized because I play videos and call, songs and stuff. So it's okay.
Yeah,
don't worry. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, most of mine aren't either. They are when they get posted, and within a couple of days something happens and it turns yellow or red. I don't know. And then I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You're awesome. And I'm going to go over and watch your video. I'm going to try to get everybody to kind of go that direction as well. Okay, and then I'm sure that we will be talking again this weekend.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have my email and
I do.
I think you even have my number. I'll talk to you later, hon.
Okay. It was good to talk to you. Bye-bye.
You too.
Okay, everybody. Thank y'all so much for being here. It wasn't really one of the longer videos that we usually do, but I said what I needed to say. And that was, from a psychological point of view, as I go through and I look at this document, I really don't think that Ann Taylor has anything to work with. And that is very strange. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on in this case. In the beginning, when he's first arrested, I was all in. I was gung-ho. I was like, they got him. This is amazing. This is great. It's good for the families that they're not going to be suffering. And then we got the charging documents, the arrest affidavit. And then you thought, there's really not much here. This is a little worrisome. There's seems to be some problems with this arrest. And now watching Ann Taylor's movements, I'm right back where I started. She doesn't have anything. It's my guess. It's just my guess. So this is, without a doubt, it is an interesting case just because of the uncertainty, and I'm going to say it again. If I were to get arrested for a quadruple murder, I would really, really want there to be some good, solid evidence. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have to prove his innocence. The prosecution has to prove his guilt. And that's a whole different way of thinking about what they do have. But, this whole alibi that never was, it surely doesn't inspire confidence from the defense point of view either. So I'm back to square one, I think. Now, on another case, which is the Rex Heuermann case, the Manhattan architect that has been arrested and accused, allegedly he is the Long Island serial killer. They have now identified a seventh body that was found in the same area as his other three, possibly four victims that are named for what he's been arrested for. And that was, she has previously been known as Jane Doe number 7. She's been identified as Karen Vergata, who was living in Manhattan at the time. She's 34 years old. And this was one of those situations. She was one of the early ones. She went missing somewhere a little bit before February 14th, 1996. She was never really reported as being a missing person. And so they kind of had to just kind of piece together her tracks and say, well, we don't really have anything after February the 14th, though she certainly could have gone missing on the 10th or the 9th or the 8th. But 1996, and listen to this, if Rex Heuermann is in fact the man that killed this woman, he would have been 34. And he worked at a beach in this area where she was found. He had, back during high school, this was a beach where he often frequented. So there are some behavioral connections to the area where her body was found, not just, well, we found her body along with, 11 other bodies. So she would have been one of the early ones. 1996, Rex Heuermann was 34 years old at that time. And that really kind of gets us to a point where we're seeing him younger and younger. Here's the other part with Rex Heuermann. If it does turn out that he is in fact the Long Island serial killer, he apparently was weeping and denying that he did anything. He said he is not the guy. He's not the one. But if he is, it would be very unusual for him to just jump up and say, okay, I'm not going to kill anymore. I'm going to be this prolific murderer. I'm going to kill 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people, right? And then one day I'm just going to go, not going to do it anymore. They just don't work that way. In between kills, this is a period of time where a great deal of anxiety and angst builds up, and they get very uncomfortable physically, and they begin having significant psychiatric symptoms and behaviors. And then when they finally do the kill, then that helps them become grounded and calm once again. So 34 years old, this would have been one of the youngest for him. I'm talking about his age. This would have been one of the earliest murders attributed to him, and he was only 34. And I think it's going to go back even further than that. I think they'll find some connections from his late 20s, I think, be my guess. But 34 might be the youngest. Okay, and is that it? I think so. I think that's everything that I wanted to kind of comment on tonight. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Crime Sleuthin, you're awesome. Thank you for coming up on panel. Sleuthy Goosey, thank you for helping me with the date for the pool party. Martin Smallwood, never forget Suzanne Morphew. And Barry, we are never going to stop talking about Suzanne Morphew and the fact that she went missing. And we kind of think someone might know what happened to her, Barry. You guys have a great Friday night.